guys, how are doing? What's been going on? I hope you're having a wonderful day. So this video is essentially about the lesson of the week, what I've learned this week. I had a very interesting one this week. It's nothing, it's kind of deep, but at the same time, I feel like it's, I don't know. We'll see what happens as we go along, because I just kind of just get into a flow state and I just start talking to you and then stuff just comes out of my mouth, basically. Okay. So, I always try to grow and learn. And this is something, of course, I really encourage everybody to do. I think it's so important for us to continually seek and stretch and expand our awareness, our knowledge, our understanding, our self-awareness above everything else. So lately I have been essentially dealing with a lot of nightmares and a lot of darkness. I always have a very strong awareness that there is so much horrible things happening in the world. And for instance, we just had the horrible news in Australia where two men essentially killed 11 people. I don't know if the number has increased since today. It just happened yesterday or 2 days ago. And this is the kind of thing that honestly, it's very difficult to keep staying in a positive mindset and keep looking at things from a positive place and noticing what it does to a person when violence and anger and fear and lower frequencies essentially are at the forefront. And I really started diving deep into this topic. You know, it's like this kind of energy, essentially what it does, it brings out more violence and more anger and more frustration. And I think all of us have experienced that. It can make us want to retaliate. It can make us become violent ourselves. It can bring out essentially the worst in people. So as I sat with this, I really needed to step back for a minute and take out my ego and my humanity, because for me, being such an animal advocate, out of everything that humans do, what we do to the animal kingdom is like the worst. So also there I have a lot of pain and suffering, and I notice it brings out again the shadow, this equal energy, if you like. It's almost like we try to match that energy with another, you know, more powerful, more aggressive and more scary and more violent energy, even though we might not act it out. Internally, we feel it. And at the end of the day, we have to remember that this world is really made out of energy. Everything is energy, and we have to be very aware of our own energy. Even though we may not lash out and even though we may not retaliate, that energy has been activated in us. So I started to really think about the ripple effect of this and how this is possibly an issue, and why I think deep down the humans have a hard time healing, why we have such a hard time resolving problems, why we struggle so much. And I was watching this video and somebody said, you cannot fight violence with violence. You cannot fight the darkness with the darkness. And suddenly I had this aha moment, because I've done a lot of healing work when it comes to shielding from entities, shielding from lower frequencies, from demonic beings, from energy vampires, all that kind of stuff. And if you understand anything about how to shield yourself energetically from these lower entities, is essentially that they create fear, anger. They awaken lower frequencies within you so that they can feed on that energy, because that's what they feed on. So entities and demonic beings need to have some level of energetic exchange in order for them to survive. And when I was thinking about this, I had this aha moment where I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. When we think even about, like, if you want to think about the Illuminati or whatever we call them, the 1% that essentially is controlling the world, this is another form of control that they use, right? They are using fear tactics and the news and all negative energies to control you, because fear makes you controllable. Because you lose control of yourself. So I was like, oh my God, moment. You know what I mean? And I realized suddenly when I finally understood where all the sages, all the healers, all of the enlightened people I've been saying for so long, you have to be the light in the dark. Because if I am in a positive headspace, if I am in a loving frequency, if I am in a healed frequency, it repels the darkness. It repels the lower entities. They're not going to feed on light. The light would actually kill them, because what the light would do is that it would influence them, affect them, and change them, which means I now have power over them. So the roles will essentially get reversed. So this really helped me a lot to understand something, is that whenever we get hate, whenever we get violence, and again, guys, I get it, way easier said than done, okay? I get it, we're still human. But the principle makes sense. We can't fight hate with hate. We can't fight violence with violence. Nothing good has come out of war except maybe people eventually not wanting it and causing them to finally change. It's once you're in enough pain and suffering, you've had enough. But that could have all been prevented by stepping into love to begin with. And I think a lot of the times when we're having issues in this world, when we're fighting even with a loved one, we could resolve this problem much quicker if we just immediately step into love. And the power of love dissipates hate, dissipates fear, destroys lower frequencies. This is why you also hear a lot of the spiritual community saying, you know, go into gratitude, because gratitude is an amplifier. So even if you have nothing, what are you grateful for right now? Because it elevates your frequency. And the minute you elevate your frequency, the lower entities don't have any power over you. And you start reclaiming your light, your energy, who you really are, which is your connection to the higher realms, to God, to the universe. I don't care what you believe in, right? So then suddenly you remember the power that you hold, that you are light. We are all born with this love, this desire to love, and life destroys that desire. Life taints our hearts, put this dark cloud over us that makes us behave and act in ways that, honestly, if our inner child could see us, they would be mortified. You know, they would be like, oh my God, you know. So something that I'm really starting to really try to shift within myself is that every time something negative happens, is that I try to step into love. And love doesn't mean I forgive. Love doesn't mean I let go. I mean, forgiveness eventually is the ultimate, because I talk a lot about forgiveness is like, don't do it just for the righteous reasons. You have to do it because it's genuine. It's just a natural effect of healing. But stepping into love allows me to take back my power. And that means I'm no longer controlled by this very situation, person, event. And I'm choosing who to be in this situation, regardless of what's happening on the outside world. And of course, we all have spectrums in what we can and cannot tap into love. There are some things that are much easier. You know, somebody cutting you off in traffic and you know, for me, that's a very easy thing to do. I used to get pissed off when people used to do that. Now I'm just like, oh, bless you, man. You must have a bad day. You know, immediately that person has no control over my day. They're not influencing my reaction. I let it go easier. And then when it comes to, for instance, factory farming or animal torture, that is probably one of my biggest triggers, or such as this thing that happened in Australia, where, you know, that obvious shadow, that obvious, like, people are just asleep to what they're doing. And of course they think they're doing this in the name of a greater cause, but no greater cause would ever want you to kill somebody else or masses of people or torture animals. It makes no sense. There cannot be any violence in love, in God, in the universe, in creation. Love is oneness. So if you destroy something else, you're destroying yourself. And why would you destroy yourself? Because you hate yourself. So there's no love there again. So it just opened up a whole world in my mind. And again, this is very obvious when you really talk about it and it makes sense. But for some reason, for us humans, common sense is sometimes a little bit difficult because we have, number one, been influenced and programmed. I mean, let's talk about social media. Let's talk about the news. Let's talk about just life in general, which doesn't allow us to be in our nature because we're in survival all the time. We're trying to get by in relationships, with our families, with our work, with our ego, trying to be someone or feel like we're of any value or love. So we have so many odds against us that it's so hard for us to just be self-aware, to just be centered and awake. And I really learned something where I really understand now the concept of you cannot fight the darkness with the darkness. As much as my ego loves it, I can think of times in my past where I have never reacted in anger. And number one, I always walked away feeling good. And number two, you always win. And number three, I'm proud of the solution, what happened. Every time I've reacted in anger and violence, at that moment, I felt powerful and strong and righteous. But then 5, 6, 7 years down the line, I've regretted it because I've grown and I can look back and I realize that could have been dealt with way better. And I can think of a situation where one day I was down at the supermarket. I was not having a good day that day. I was having a bit of a tough day. I was a little bit off. And I'm going down the aisle with my, trolley, whatever you guys call it in the US or Australia, whatever. The shopping cart. That's what it was. And I saw this older man standing there, and he was literally taking up the entire of the aisle. Like his shopping cart was literally like this in the aisle. This man was looking for a fight, basically. And I go up and I was being very nice, even though I was tired and not in the best mood. I was like, "Oh, excuse me, sir, can I pass through?" He gave me this look. He was like, wanted to beat me up. I'm telling you, this man had so much anger and violence in him, grabs his trolley, starts like, ugh, 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 and he gives me this, like, I'm like, it was like a little much. And problem with me is that when I get aggression in general, my defense mechanism is to like top you. It's like, you think you're here? Oh, sweetheart, I can get way more extra. And I could feel that anger and that like, oh yeah, you know, coming up in me. And then I was just like, remembered this moment. I was like, do you really want to walk away from here arguing with this person? And then suddenly I looked at this person and I just saw their pain. I was able to take away my need for revenge or for being right, which obviously I was in that moment. And I just asked him to move his shopping cart, which is common sense and common courtesy. And I just took a deep breath and I took a moment and I slowed down my energy. I brought myself into myself, back to myself, did not give him my energy anymore. Because again, remember, darkness feeds on that energy. And I looked at him with soft eyes. I softened myself. I softened my energy. And I said, "You must be having a really hard day, sir. I'm really, really sorry. And I hope your day gets better." And then I smiled and I just kept going. And even though he didn't look like he reacted, I know that that had an impact on him because I have been him in my past. And whenever I've been that person, when I've been so angry and frustrated and somebody gave me some love or kindness, to this day, I've never forgotten it. To this day, that person left an impact on me. So I passed on that light. So this is how we're going to heal each other, guys. This is how healing works. Hurt people hurt people. Healed people can heal people. And for me, this is just such an important lesson, crucial to relationships, crucial to life. Now, this doesn't mean you allow people to abuse you. This doesn't mean you allow people to have violence on you. I'm not saying that, of course, guys. Common sense here. But for the little things, such as this guy with the shopping cart, the guy that crosses you on the street, we can start there. And we can notice how if I would have reacted to somebody like that, they would have fought me back, and then this could have gotten out of hand very quickly. And sometimes, yeah, it does happen where we just give back, but then we still get it back and we try again and it comes back, and that's when you dip out. That's when you leave, okay, if you can. So I understand there are certain case scenarios, guys. Again, common sense here. We're talking about energy and situations, but as far as it has happened with me, I've been in very dangerous situations where I have managed to diffuse the situation by changing my energy. I even remember once when I was a teenager, I was in a really bad crowd. One of the girls was crying. It was her birthday. Nobody was paying attention to her. I was like 13, 14, and everybody was drinking. And she was crying because no one was paying attention to her. And I said, you know, it's sad because I don't feel like these people are really your friends. And then she started crying. The cousin came over. She's like, what's wrong? And she was like, oh, you guys are not really my friends. And the girl was like, who told you that? And then she wanted to like, literally, who told you? I'll beat them up and blah, blah. She started going and she started ganging up all the girls. And I was like, oh God, I'm going to get like, I'm going to die. And I didn't say anything, and I kept my energy low and tranquil, and I just looked at her without fear, without reacting, and luckily nothing happened to me. So I've had multiple scenarios, unfortunately, especially in my teenage years, where I've almost been beaten up a few times. Long story, guys. I can tell you about all those stories if you want. Leave a comment below. I can tell you plenty of stories where I've been in really rough crowds and I've gotten my way out. But again, I always remember it was my energy. Now, maybe these people weren't that powerful that I was able to overcome their energy. I'm sure there is always an exception to the rule, but for the most part, I truly believe that this is something to consider and this is something to try. And it is very difficult to do. Very difficult. So if it helps you in any kind of way, just think about it. If I react with a negative energy, I am feeding that demon with that energy and I'm making it stronger, and now they have control over me. And when I feed that demon, I create an energetic link between me and that person that can have a ripple effect in my future, because you might still remember this moment later on and regret it. Or I can choose to rise above it in this moment, sever that cord, and they are left with the memory of me, of the impact that I had on them. So I become in the cause and no longer in the effect. I like that. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting to go there. I wasn't expecting all this to come out of my head, but I love it and it makes sense because it was there, but how it came through. Anyway, whatever. Okay, guys. So, as always, I always love to chat with you guys. So make sure that you follow, of course, my meditations and leave comments. Let me know what you think about these videos. If there's any specific topic that you would like me to talk about, I'm always here to connect, to just have this exchange and learn together and grow together and understand each other. I don't know. I just have this deep need for connection for you out there who are choosing to heal, who are choosing to wake up, and who are choosing something better than what is right now, because what is interesting. All right, guys. So on that note, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button, because then it tells you whenever I put these videos up or you're going to miss it. Don't forget also to check out my Oracle deck and my new book, The Book of Realm. They can go together or separate. It's doing so well. I'm so proud of it. I've been getting 5-star reviews. I am so excited for you guys to get to know all about the realms. A course is coming, and I'm also building a course on how to teach you how to create your own Oracle deck. So keep an eye out. I'm still working on it. Give me a bit of time, but it's coming, okay? And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you soon. Have a magical day. Bye-bye.